So what are those user variables? One is user variable. So where to find these user variables and system variables means, so you can open your My Computer on this PC, right click and select properties. Then here you will get a system window. At the top you will be able to see the title for this window as system. On the left side of the window you will find advanced system settings. So click on this advanced system settings, and then a small window will appear, pop up on the existing window. So that window will have system properties. So in that you click on this environment variables. So then you are able to see now another window has been popped up on the existing window. So this contains, you are able to see the variable and value here, right? So one box containing some set of variables and their values, and here below you have one more box containing another set of variables, right? So the first box at the top that you find, these are called as user variables. All these variables, these are all user variables. And at the bottom you are finding some one more set of variables here in this box. So these are all system variables. Okay, so you need to create two system variables. One is Java home, the other one is class path. Two variables you need to create. So what are these variables and what must be the value of these variables? I'll let you know now. So now you understood what is a user variable and what is a system variable. Let me show you how to create these variables and how to set a value for these variables so that your JDBC will work on your system. Okay, so I'm using MySQL database here on my system. So I've installed XAMPP control panel. So I'm not using MySQL Workbench. If you are having MySQL Workbench, you can use that also. But I'm using XAMPP because I deal with servlets and JSP. I'm using this XAMPP. So what is this XAMPP means? It is like a software package. It's a software package. This will allow you to install many softwares in a single go, in a single package. So with this, after installing this, you can execute PHP programs, you can execute or develop PHP and Perl programs, and you can also create MySQL database and access the tables content in the MySQL database. So this XAMPP stands for, I'll tell you what is XAMPP first. So this first X stands for cross-platform. So that means you can use this XAMPP software either on Linux operating system or Windows operating system or any other operating system. So that is the meaning of this X, which stands for cross-platform. Then the first A, it is representing Apache web server. Then the M stands for either MySQL or MariaDB. So it will be MySQL, both are same. Then the first P stands for Perl programming and the next P stands for PHP programming. So by installing this XAMPP software, you can do all these things. That means you can develop PHP applications and run PHP applications. You can develop Perl programming applications and run them. Similarly, you can create a MySQL database and insert and retrieve data from the tables of a MySQL database. And if you are using a web application, to run that web application, we require a web server. So you can use that web server also. But in our context, because we are not creating any web applications, we are simply creating Java standalone application. We don't require this Apache web server. So we'll be using only this one, the MySQL. Okay, so when you install this XAMPP software, you'll get a control panel installed on your system. You can go to start menu and search for XAMPP control panel. Then this will be available. This will be launched when you select that control panel. So here I'm going to start MySQL. If I start this MySQL and Apache Web Server, then I'll be able to access my tables from the web browser. I need not go to command prompt and type all the commands for creating table, for creating database and all these things. So directly I'll get a graphical user interface like this.
Sir,
Sir,
అవి రికార్డ్ చేయండి దీన్ని చేస్తున్నారా?
రికార్డ్ చేస్తున్నాం సార్.
రైట్.
So here, after you start this XAMPP control panel, you must get these buttons like this, stop buttons. Earlier they were start, right? Now I started already. So now because it is already started, you will get the stop buttons. So after you complete your work, you can stop these buttons. So as of now, I started them and then I'm minimizing this window. So now how to access this MySQL database means, so type localhost, simply localhost. So when you type localhost, so you'll get this dashboard for your XAMPP. So you'll find PHP MyAdmin at the top right corner here. So click on this PHP MyAdmin. So when you click on that PHP MyAdmin, so you will get this PHP MyAdmin page. So you are able to see on the left side all these things. These are all the existing databases that are available on my system as of now. Okay, so if you want to create a new database, you are finding some tabs here at the top: database, SQL, status, user accounts, export, import, settings, all these things, right? So if you click on these databases, then it will show you all the list of databases that are created on your system. Okay, or else you can also click on this left side panel, you will find different databases, right? So how to create a database? Simply you can click on this new button here. So if you click on this new button, then it will ask you for entering your database name, and simply after entering the name of the database, click on create. Automatically the database will be created. So for your understanding, now I'll simply create one testing database. I'll not use the database. I'll use an existing database called registration here. But to show how to create a database, simply I'm showing you this one. Say I'm going to create a database called sample, and I'll click on create. So now you will be able to find sample database on the left side. So earlier it was not there. So now you are able to find sample database. So if you observe all these databases, they have a plus symbol before them, right? So when you have that plus symbol, it means that currently you are not using that database. But if you observe for the sample database, you are finding a minus symbol. So which indicates that you are currently using that database. So you know, if you have installed MySQL on your system, when you open the command prompt for MySQL, if you want to use a particular database, you will type the command use a database name, right? Then after typing that command, you will be entering into the database, and whatever tables you create there from there by using the create command, all the tables will be stored into that particular database which you opened earlier by using the command use database, right? But instead of that, we need not type all those commands here. Directly we have all the listed databases here. In whichever database you want to create a table, just simply click on that database. Then automatically you will get this minus symbol here, which indicates that currently you are using that particular database. And now if you want to create a table here, mention a table name. Say I'll create a users table here. So by default, the number of columns, that is the number of fields for the table, will be given mentioned as 4. If you don't want to use them 4, say you want to use only 3, reduce it to 3 and click on this go button on the right side. So this will create 3 text fields here for those 3 fields. Say first field I want to give as student name. I'm giving it as student name. Second field, say I want to give as roll number. And third field, say I want to give year, to which year he belongs to. And their data types, in MySQL, you can use varchar, integer, blob, all these things, right? So you can select the database from here. So I want to use varchar, so I'll select varchar for it. So varchar here, and then all I'm selecting as varchars only, because I'll represent all these fields only as string values. So that's why I'm selecting varchar. So you can also give the length of those fields. So say student name, I'm giving 100 as length, and roll number I'm giving say 20, and year I'm simply giving 10. So after doing this, you'll find, if you scroll it to the right side, if you want to make any of those fields as a primary key, so you have this index right at the top. So below that, to whichever field you want to make a primary key, you select that for that particular field primary key. So now I want to make roll number as primary key, because roll number will be unique. Name will not be unique, right? So there may be 2 or more students with same name in the same class and year. So we cannot make a student name as a primary key, but roll number will be unique irrespective of which branch you belong, which year you belong to, which class, which section you belong to. So roll numbers will be unique. So we can make roll number field, that is the second field, as primary key. So if you want to make it as primary key, just select this one and click on go. This will automatically become a primary key now. Okay. And if you want to use any auto increment option, so you have this AI, right? So if you click on that, automatically that will become an auto increment. But to which data type you have to use auto increment? For integer, but we didn't create any fields with integer data types. So no need of using auto increment in our context. Anything else, for example, if you want to give email ID also, I'm not using email ID, I'm using only 3 fields here. If I use email ID, then that also will become a unique value, right? Email ID will be unique for each and every student. So instead of making it as a primary key, because already we have roll number as primary key, you cannot make another primary key, because a MySQL table, or if that matters, any database technology will not allow you to create more than one primary key in a table, right? So that's why you cannot make email again a primary key. Instead of making it as a primary key, you can make it as a unique key. So you have unique option here, right? So you can select that unique and make that particular field as unique key. So as of now, we don't want all those things. Once you are done with this, you have given the names of the fields, the data types of the fields, the length of the fields, and if you want to make any primary key, you just make it as one primary key, right? So rest of the other things you need not worry about them. So after doing this, you simply click on save button. Then this table will be created. So you'll get this structure. Look at the tabs at the top. After the table is created, you will get the structure of the table. Okay. So under this structure, you will be able to find all the fields that you created. How many fields you created? That many. So how many fields we have created? 3 fields. So they are listed here with their serial numbers 1, 2, 3. First field name is S name. Its data type is varchar. The length is 100, which is specified in the parenthesis. Then you made this, you didn't make this any primary key or unique key. And then roll number, if you observe, beside that yellow color key icon is visible there, which indicates that this particular field in this table is a primary key, and it is also varchar of 20 size. Then year is also varchar of 10 size. If you want to change these names or anything, you want to edit them, modify the name of the table or modify the primary key, then you can click on this change. And if you click on change, so you'll get an option to edit that one. So if you want to edit, you can edit it. Otherwise, you can leave it. I'm not editing it, so I'm directly clicking on save. If you want to drop that particular field, you can click on this drop. So this will uh, drop this particular field from the table. So there are 3 tables. Now if I select this table and click on this drop button, drop link, then automatically this name, this field name, S name will be deleted from the table. So you'll be left over only with 2 table fields, roll number and year. Okay, so I'm not doing that, all these things. So this is just for showing you how to create a database and how to create a table on your exam control panel. So after you have done this, then we have to go for setting up the path for JDBC and interacting with this MySQL database. Okay, so if you observe my database on the left side here, it is currently selected, which indicates that I'm using currently this database sample, and in that database I'm using the table called users here. So right, so now if you are able to find this browse button, if you click on this browse button, then this will show you the number of rows that are already inserted into the table. So now it is not showing anything because just now we created the table and we have not yet inserted any records into the table, so it will not show any values. If I click on this registration, I have this is another database. So here I have test test table. So if you click on this test table, now the browse tab is enabled. So you will be able to see totally 6 records available in this table. So in my program, I'm going to show execute. I'm going to use this particular table called test table. The name of the database is registration. So please remember, all of you, the table that I'm going to use is test, and it is present in which database? Database name is registration. Okay. So now that you understood this concept, let me minimize this and go back to our notepad. So I'll remove all these things. So for MySQL, you need to know something. There will be a port number. There will be a port number. So port number is nothing but the port for your computer through which your MySQL database will perform any interaction with any clients. Okay, so the default port number for MySQL is 3306. The default port number will be 3306. This you will know about it when you are installing MySQL database. Okay, so if you are not setting this port number on your own, automatically the port number for MySQL will be 3306. Okay, so now let us create these variables. So what are the variables you need to create? First one is Java home. You need to create these variables under system variables. Okay. So what are the 2 variables you need to create? First one is Java home. It should be in capital letters only, Java underscore home. Then the second one is class path variable. So this can be in small letters. So 2 variables you need to create. So what must be the value of Java home? So Java home must be set to the JDK folder that is installed on your system. So on my system, I have JDK installed in C drive in program files folder. So you'll find Java folder, right? So in that you'll find 2 different folders. One is JDK folder, the other one is JRE folder. So open this JDK folder and now select this complete path in the address bar of your window. This must be given as a value for this Java home environment variable. Okay, then coming to the class path, the class path must be given up to bin. The class path must be given up to bin. Okay, so you will be able to create multiple values for this class path variable. For any variable, you can create multiple values. So you can, it is not, there is no restriction that you have to assign only one value. So class path variable can be used for Java software as well as MySQL also. Okay, so you can use class path, same class path variable, and set the path for Java as well as for MySQL also. So already you are doing some Java programs, so you must have already set this path on your system if you have done it already, or if you have not done it, you can do it now. So you have to set first for Java, this is for Java, then for MySQL also you need to set the path. So after installing MySQL, you need to have another file downloaded called MySQL connector jar file. MySQL connector jar file. So you can place that jar file anywhere on your system. You can place that jar file anywhere on your system, but it is suggested to go to the lib folder of your JDK folder, and here you'll be able to find some executable jar files, right? So always lib folder will have jar files, list of jar files. So you can save it here, you can put it here, but I didn't put it here. I put it in a separate another software called, I have installed Tomcat web server because I want to run servlet applications which are based on Java. So I pasted that jar file in another folder called, so you are able to find Apache software. In that I have Tomcat, and here also I have a lib folder. So in this lib folder I pasted a jar file that I downloaded. You can download this file by googling it. If you google, you'll get this MySQL connector jar file. Let me show that in the browser here itself. So if you simply type MySQL connector Java or MySQL connector jar download, then you will get that link. So you are able to see it, dev.mysql.com, right? So simply click on this. So choose the operating system for which you want to download this jar file, whether it is Windows or anything. So by default, this will be automatically Windows. So if your system is Windows, you need not select anything. Simply click on go to download page. Then you will get this, automatically it was selected for Microsoft Windows. You have this Windows x86 32-bit MSI installer. So download this one. Okay, second one, don't download this one. MSI installer 24.4 M is their size, right? So instead of that, download the second one. So if you download it, you will get a uh, RAR file, Windows RAR file. So extract that RAR file. When you extract that RAR file, inside that folder, when you open that folder, then you will find the MySQL connector jar file that I showed you earlier. So I showed you, right? This is the file, MySQL connector, MySQL hyphen connector hyphen Java hyphen, and the jar file version number. Okay, so this is very important. So after you download it, you paste it in your lib folder of your Java folder. Okay, so go to program files. You can place it anywhere, but I pasted here. So I'll set the path for this directory only. If you paste it in Java's lib folder, you have to set the path for that particular folder only. So because my MySQL connector jar file is placed in this folder, so I have to use this path only. So select this path from the address bar, and after this lib, you can, if you give one backward slash and type MySQL connector, so this will be selected, and now you can select this from the address bar completely and give the value for class path, this one. Okay, so it should be like this. C program files, Apache Software Foundation, Tomcat 7.0. In my case, it is Tomcat 7.0, but for you, after program files, you'll have Java folder, and after Java, you'll have lib folder. Okay. So if I have to do that, I have to uninstall on my system and then again show you how to install it. All my application will be disturbed because I have many applications uh, working on this software. So I cannot do it now, but that's why I'm telling you how to create it on your own. If you want, I'll record this. I am recording this video. I'll upload it to YouTube and I'll send that video. You can access it whenever you want if you have any doubt. Okay. So remember, you must set for the same class path variable these two values, once for Java and second time for MySQL. When you will be able to set this path only after you download this MySQL connector Java file and paste it in lib folder of your Java's JDK folder, right? So in your Java's JDK folder, you will find this lib folder. So you have this lib folder, right? So you paste it here and select this path. Select this path from up to MySQL connector java.jar file and paste it as a value for the class path variable. So I'll show you on my system all the system variables. See, you're able to see class path here, right? So if you want to create, if it is already existing, you have to click on edit button. Then it will show you what are the values, how many values are there for that particular class path variable. So I've created, if you want to edit this one, you can click on edit and you will be able to see. I've created for one for servlet, another for this MySQL connector jar file. So you're able to see MySQL connector Java -8.0.13.jar file, right? So these two values you must set. If you don't have this variable, click on new button, then give here class path and paste that path you selected from your folder here like this. Okay. So because I already created, I'm not creating it once again. So there will be a conflict if I create one more time. So I'm removing it. So just for showing how to create it. So click on new button and create the class variable name as class path and give the value whatever you have copied from the address bar of your lib folder. Okay. Then Java path also must be created. So Java home. So look at what is the value of Java home. It is C program files Java JDK 1.8.0_181. So this must be the path. You have to set it only up to the JDK folder. You need not set up to bin, right? So once you are done with this, then under user variables, create another variable now with the same name class path. So I created already this class path variable. So what you need to do is you have to, if it is not there, click on go new button. If it is already there, you can edit it. So on your system, it will not be there, I guess. So click on new button and give class path here. And after giving class path, so here you can specify the class path that you created already under system variables. So how to specify that? You need not type that path once again to automatically get that class path that you created under system variables. You have to use this percentage symbol followed by class path and again percentage symbol followed by a semicolon dot semicolon. And variable name must be same class path. Okay, and just click on OK. Then this will be created with this value. So already I created class path, so I'll edit it and show it to you. So this is how I created. See, class name of the variable is class path, and variable's value is percentage class path followed by one more percentage. Then after that semicolon dot semicolon. So why I'm giving this semicolon dot semicolon means if you want to run your Java program or any other program for which you are setting this path from any directory on your computer, then it will allow you to do so. If you don't give that semicolon dot semicolon, then you have to go to that specific folder where your Java is installed, and from there only you will be able to execute your Java programs. Right? If you want to execute them from anywhere on your computer by creating your own folder and saving all your Java files in that folder, then you have to do this way. So two things you need to do. Two class path variables you have to create. One class path under user variables, one class path under system variables. So which one you will be creating first? Under system variables, you create class path. So the what must be the value for this? One value must be up to the bin folder, the other value must be up to the MySQL connector Java file. So if it is already available, click on edit and select new button here and copy paste that new path value here. So in that way you can give any number of paths for the same class path variable. Already I've given two path values, right? So if you want to give one more path variable, one more path value for another software, then you can click on this new button and this will be cursor will be blinking here. You simply copy and paste that path directory path here. Okay, as of now I don't require because already it is created and available on my system. If it is not there, click on new button. If it is already there, simply select that variable name like this. It must be highlighted with blue color background, then edit button will be enabled. If you don't select that edit path variable name, then this edit button will not be active. It will not be enabled, it will be disabled. Okay, so after setting the class path variable under system variables, then create class path variable under user variables, right? And also Java home variable also must be created for under system variables. So after doing this, if your command prompt is already open, if it is already open, uh, close that command prompt and restart it again. Then only all the paths that you created will work. If it is already open, you have to close it and open it again. If it is not open, you can open and start running your program. So I'll show you a program uh, using which I'll be inserting data into the table and I'll be retrieving data from the table. Okay, so I have a program created in my D drive in Java folder. I have JDBC subfolder. So here I have written 3 programs. So I'll execute this DB write program. So which will insert values into the table, 3 values into the table. So let me first show you. This is my localhost PHP admin page. So I'm going to insert into this test table. So already how many records are there in this table? There are 6 records are there. So this table has 4 fields: ID field, fname field, and email field, and DEPT field. Okay. So this ID field is an integer type of value and it is an auto increment field. Fname stands for faculty name and email stands for email is for entering the faculty's email ID, and department DEPT is for storing the department of the faculty. Okay. So what is the database name? Registration. So you remember this point. So the database that I'm going to use is registration. The table name is test. Okay, database name is registration and table name is test. So where is my Java program? In D drive. So I have to go to that D drive, CD. I have a subfolder called Java. and in that Java I have another subfolder called JDBC. So I'm going to that particular directory. So here I can compile and run my JDBC program. So my Java file name is dbwrite, D capital, B capital, W capital, and the remaining letters are small letters. So to compile, you know the command, right? Javac space dbwrite.java. So it is successfully compiled. So to run the program, Java space dbwrite. So it will ask me to enter name. I'm giving surname and email ID. Okay, I'm giving CSE. So now if I strike enter button, automatically this table must be inserted with these values. So you observe what are the records are there. Faculty name Tarakeshwar Rao, Rashekar, Rishit, Tarakeshwar and Rishit. So there is no Vijay Kumar here, right? So now if I run this program, that record must be inserted and it must be visible here. Okay. So I'll strike the enter key. So if the table values are inserted, I'll get a message, one row inserted successfully. So let me go to that table and click on this browse button so that the page will be refreshed. So now you are able to see a new record inserted, right? So with ID 11, I'm not giving ID, it is an auto increment field. So even though I don't give any value for that one, automatically the value of the previous record's value will be incremented by 1 and the current record will be given that value. So the previous record is with 10, so it is incremented to 11. Okay, and the F name, faculty name is Vijay Kumar, and email ID is also vijaykumar@gmail.com, and department is CSE. Okay, so this is how you insert values. And to retrieve values, I have another program. So this is my program called dbread. So if I enter my email ID here, automatically the total record will be retrieved and displayed for me. See, I'm entering the previous email ID, sir's email ID that I gave. So let me check the spelling once again. Vijay Kumar. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now it has generated C. ID is 11, name is Vijay Kumar, email is vijaykumar@gmail.com, and department is CSE. So all these values are retrieved from the table of my that we created earlier. Okay. So this is how we run a JDBC program. So I hope you understood. If you are having any doubts, you can go through this video. I'll upload it within a 15 minutes of time or so. I'll send you that link. I'll share it to sir. Sir will share you. Okay. Sir, shall I explain that program, sir?
ఒక్కసారి నీ టైం ఉంటే ఓకే, అదర్వైజ్ ఐ విల్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ లేటర్, నో ఇష్యూ.
Okay, sir.
మీకు టైం ఉంది అంటే యూ కెన్ జస్ట్ బ్రీఫ్. ఐ థింక్ ఆల్రెడీ ఇన్ అవర్ పీపీటీ సో అబౌట్ దిస్ డ్రైవర్ అండ్ కనెక్షన్ అండ్ స్టేట్మెంట్ ఇవన్నీ మామూలుగా ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తున్నాను. సో ప్రోగ్రామ్ లో అయితే ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేయలేదు. విత్ ఇన్ 5 minutes ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ యూ కెన్.
Yeah, okay, sir. I will complete it.
Students, do you have any doubts on this in this class till now? What's are explained? You can ask now itself. How to install XAMPP software into your system, that is also explained, sir.
XAMPP
Creating
XAMPP installation is very simple. You can download it and double click. Very simple it is to install it. If you install XAMPP, it will be useful for you in the coming semester also, because again there you will use web technologies. You'll have web technology subject. So there
third
you
year
have,
and final year also it will be useful.
yeah, it will be useful in future also. ఓకే సార్, నేను కంటిన్యూ చేస్తా.
Okay.
ఒక 10
Right.
మినిట్స్లో కంప్లీట్ చేస్తాను.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
అంటే నేను అదే ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ ఇస్తాను సార్ ప్రోగ్రామ్.
Okay. So go ahead, sir.
So for this program, you have to import a package, java.sql package. So I think sir has explained you about this JDBC API with that PPT earlier. So all those classes and interfaces that are required for us to interact with MySQL JD database or any other database, they'll be defined in a package called SQL package. So you have to import that java.sql.star package into your program. Then I'm also importing scanner class of util package also, because to read values from the keyboard, we were entering the name, email ID and department of the faculty, right, when I ran the program. So how to read them? By using scanner class object and using the method next line method to read strings, right? So you need to import that scanner package also, scanner class also from util package. So I'm defining a class called dbWrite. So I'm defining the main method inside this class. First, I'm creating scanner object for scanner class using system.in. System.in is the standard input device, that is keyboard. Okay, so whichever device from which you want to give as input, you have to specify that device here. So some constants are defined in system class in lang package. So system.in variable refers to the keyboard the standard input device, that is keyboard. System.out refers to the console, the command prompt where you are seeing the output. So that's why you'll have println method as system.out.println, right? So I have to give here system.in, then only it will work. So you know already this one. So I'm serving a message for the user to enter his name. Then I'll store that value that I enter using s dot next line, where s is nothing but a scanner class object. So you have next line method to read a string from keyboard. This will return that value in the form of a string. So I'm storing it in fname variable, string fname variable. Similarly, I'm serving a message for the user to enter his email ID. Then I'll read it again using the same next line method and store it in another variable, email. Similarly, department also I'm storing it in dept variable. Then from here I'm using try block. So inside the try block, I have written the code for establishing connection to the database. Because this is capable of generating an exception, I'm using it. So you may get a SQL exception when you're trying to interact with database. If some problem occurs, then an exception will be generated. That exception is SQL exception. Okay, so always put this code inside try block. So inside try block, what I'm doing is I'm calling this name method called for name method. This for name method is defined in a class called class. So we have imported java.sql package and java.util package, right? So you have a class in Java with its name itself as class, and this class has a method called for name method, which is a static method. So when you have a static method in a Java class, you can call that method directly using the class name without creating an object for it. So normally, if you're calling any other method of a class outside the class, you require an object to call that method from outside the class, right? But because this for name method is a static method, So you can directly call without creating an object by using the name of the class. So the name of the class in which this for name is defined is class. The name itself is class where C is capital. So you know the Java naming convention, all the class names will begin with capital letter. So capital C LASS class dot for name. So what is this method going to do is it is going to register the driver. So in the steps shown to you, explained by sir for you, the first step is we need to register the driver. So the driver name for MySQL database is this one, com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. If CJ is not working for you, you remove CJ and use only up to this part. You can remove this CJ and use only com.mysql.jdbc.driver. If you are using latest version of JDK, then you may get a problem. So uh, if you are using a latest version, then use CJ here. Okay. For older versions, it is not required. So I want it to be used even newer version. So that's why I'm giving CJ here. So this is the driver with which you need to register so that you can establish connection and then interact with the database. So this is the driver name. So what is the driver name? com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. So this driver name will be different for different databases. For MySQL, this is the driver name. For Oracle, that will be something else. So if you Google driver names for various database technologies, you'll get that list. Okay. So for MySQL, this is com.mysql.cj.jdbc.driver. Then after registering this driver, you have a method called get connection method. This get connection method is defined in a class called driver manager. So again, this get connection is also a static method. So that's why without an object, directly I'm using class name dot get connection method. So what is this get connection method going to do is when it is called, it'll return an object of type connection interface. So you have an interface called connection interface in java.sql package. So this method will return an object of that interface. So this con will become an object for that interface. So we'll use that con and object later in our program to prepare statements and then execute them. So I'll tell you that one also. But before that, let me explain you about this get connection method. So this get connection method has 3 string parameters. You are able to see the 3 string parameters here. The first one is this one, right? Second one is this one, root, and third one is blank. Okay, so let me tell you about these parameters. The first parameter is the URL, which will uniquely identify your database in MySQL. So what is the database that we created? Just before I told you, the database name is registration and the table name is test, right? I removed it, I think. So if you can remember, registration is the database name. So what is this means? This complete URL refers to, first you have JDBC, which means that you are using an API to establish connection with MySQL. And what is that API? JDBC API. So JDBC colon MySQL means what? You are using a JDBC API to establish connection with MySQL database. Okay. Then after that, give a colon symbol, and this localhost 3306 will refer to the MySQL port number, MySQL server on your system. Okay, so you have to specify 2 forward slashes after the colon symbol and mention localhost. Localhost refers to your local MySQL server that is installed on your system. And as I told you earlier, the default port number from which your database will be communicating with external applications is 3306. So you have to separate that localhost and 3306 with a colon symbol. So this is referring to the MySQL server on your system. And on that MySQL system server, what is the database you're going to access? That you have to specify. After 3306, you have to give a forward slash and mention the name of the database exactly. So without any mistakes, even it is case sensitive. So don't use capital R instead of small letter r. So with whatever case you have created the database table name there, database name and table name is the same case you have to use here also. So this is the first parameter. So this first parameter is nothing but collectively it is called as the URL, unique URL, which is going to identify the MySQL database on your system, right? Then second parameter is the user account. So on MySQL server, you will have a default user account called root user account. So I'm using that root user account. If you want to create your own user account, you can create it all. I think you must have learned it from DBMS, that, right? So my user account I'm using it is root here. So that you have to pass as second parameter in the double quotes. Then the third parameter, what is the data, what is the password you have given for that user account. So if you have given any password for that, mention that password within the double quotes here. I didn't give any password for my user account here, so that's why I simply opened the double quote and immediately closed it, which indicates that the password is blank. Okay, so once this get connection method executes this one by mentioning this URL for database and the user account for your MySQL server and password, then after successfully establishing connection, this get connection will establish a connection with that particular mentioned URL to the MySQL database. So if it successfully establishes connection to the database, then it will return a connection object. So that connection object will be stored in this con variable. Okay, so if it is unable to establish a connection, then it will return a null value. It will return a null value. So if you want to check whether the connection has been established exactly successfully or not, you can check this value. If con value is equal to null, which it indicates that the connection has not been established. Okay, if it is not equal to null, it indicates that it has been established successfully. So I'm not checking it here. Then I need to create a SQL statement that which I want to execute on my MySQL. So I'm creating that SQL statement in the form of a string and storing it in a variable called SQL. Okay, so what is my SQL statement I want to use is insert command, because I want to insert values into the table. So from DBMS we'll be using insert command to insert values into a table. So what is the table name? Insert into the table name is test. I'm not inserting all the 4 values. I'm inserting only 3 values. ID value will be automatically inserted, so I need not specify that field name. So I'm specifying the remaining 3 field names: fname, email, dpt, dept, separating them by comma. Then after that values. Okay, and after values, I'm opening a single quote here. This is first single quote, then followed by a double quote closed. Why I am closing the double quote here means, because the value that I want to insert here is not directly available with me, but it is available in the fname variable. We have created 3 variables, right? One fname to store the name of the faculty. We have read them from the keyboard. Email is stored in variable email, and department value is stored in DEPT variable. So we have the values that we want to insert into the table in these 3 variables. So you cannot mention that variable name inside the double quote in Java. So if you mention that variable name inside the double quote, it will not be considered as variable. It will be considered as a normal string and it will display the same thing, right? So that's why, to avoid that, what we need to do is, after opening the single quote, as per the syntax of insert command, after the values parenthesis is opened, for each value you need to enclose it in single quote, right? So that's why I'm opening the single quote first and then closing the double quote that I opened here, right? So after closing it, you concatenate with what value you want to insert. Where is our value for faculty name in fname variable? So just concatenate using the concatenation operator, the variable name fname, and again it must be in turn concatenated with the second value, right? So before concatenating with the second value, we need to close the single quote for the first value, that which we opened here, right? So after plus symbol here, open the double quote and close the single quote. After the first value, you have to separate the second value with comma, right? So that's why after single quote, use comma, and again open the single quote for the second value and then close the double quote, concatenate with the second value from variable email, then again open the double quote and close the single quote, then give a comma to separate it from the third value, then open the double quote, single quote for the third value, and close the double quote and concatenate it with the DEPT variable. So after that, close the single quote for the third value, and then finally close the double quote, and give a parenthesis close for values, and entire thing we have to put it in double quote, right? So we have opened double quote here one, so close that double quote there after that one. So now this complete SQL statement is stored in a variable called SQL. So we need not type the same command again and again if you want to use it multiple times in your program. So that is the reason why I'm storing it in a variable SQL. So now whenever I want to execute this insert command, I need not to use this command directly. I'll use the variable SQL. Okay. So after creating this SQL statement, the next step is we need to create this SQL statement into JDBC format so that we can run it on the MySQL. So to do that, you have a method called create statement method, which is defined in connection interface. It is defined in connection interface. So connection interface object already we have obtained here, right? So you have to use that con object and call this create statement method. So this will return an object of type statement interface. Okay, this will return an object of type statement. So once you obtain this statement object, then using this statement object, you have a predefined method called execute update method. Execute update method. So this execute update method will execute the SQL statement for us on the MySQL server on behalf of us. We need not execute. This method will automatically execute on the MySQL server. So for this method, you need to pass that SQL statement which you want to execute on the MySQL server. So we have already stored that SQL statement in SQL variable. So just pass that SQL variable as parameter to this execute method, execute update method. Okay. So now this execute method, what it does is, please somebody is unmuted, please.
Hey, who is that making disturbance? Hey, Sisindri.
Okay, sir. Jason, mute Jason.
Okay.
Okay. So this execute method, execute update method will return an integer value. That integer value will be equivalent to the number of rows inserted into the table of the database. If one row is inserted, it will return 1. If two rows are inserted, it will return 2. If three are inserted, it will return 3. If none of the rows are inserted, then it will return 0. So we can understand that if the value of r is greater than 0, we have successfully inserted at least one row into the table of the database, right? So I'm checking in the next line, if r greater than 0, what does it indicate? It indicates that at least one row has been inserted, but we have written the SQL statement to exactly insert one row. So that's why we have to confirm that it is one row only. So I'm using system.out.println and displaying a message one row inserted successfully. Okay. Then the catch block for the corresponding try block is created, and in that catch block, if any exception occurred, that exception description will be displayed by this object E, right? So this is how this program works. And similarly for read operation, so for read operation, what we are doing, we need not enter all the values of the table fields. We need to specify only the email, which is the primary key or the unique key, right? So we'll use email. We'll ask the user to enter the email ID. Then we'll search in the database table whether any record is matching with this email ID or not. If it is available, then it will retrieve all the field values, including email field. It will also retrieve all the other values and store it in a object called result set class object, which is again defined in java.sql package, right? First we'll use, like we have done in the previous program, a scanner object is created and we'll ask the user to enter the email ID and store that email ID in email variable. And the next steps are similar, just like you connected established connection for the database in the previous program. So all the same steps you need to do till here up to creating of statement, but SQL statement is different here. Earlier we were inserting, now we want to retrieve values from the database. So for that you have select command. So select star from table name is test, where email is matching with what value, the email ID that we entered from the keyboard that is stored in email. So as per the earlier syntax, open in the double quotes, I'm giving select star from test where email is equal to, and a single quote opened and double quote closed and concatenated with the variable email value. Then again, open the double quote, close the single quote, and close the double quote again. So this is simple. So this SQL statement, I want to execute it now, right? So till here, the statement of obtaining statement, this is similar as in the previous program. The next step is different. Earlier in the previous program, we have used execute update method, but here we are using execute query. Execute update method is used to uh, execute DML statements, data manipulation language. You know DML in DBMS, right? So if you are inserting any data into the table, or you are modifying any content of your table, or updating the table with some new value, then in that case, we have to use that execute update method. But when you are retrieving values from the table, we have to use a method called execute query method. So this method is also defined in the same statement interface. So pass that SQL statement for this SQL execute query method. This will execute this query on the database server, MySQL server, and if it is successfully executed, if it retrieves some at least one row, then all those rows will be represented by a class called result set class in java.sql package. So it will be returning an object for this class, and that object will be stored in rs. Okay, so once this result set object is obtained after executing the query on the database, then you have some methods like next method, previous method, and these methods will be parsing through all the rows of the database. Say for example, 3 rows have been retrieved from the table. Then when you call the next method using this result set object, it will read the first record in the result set that is retrieved. Then again, one more time, if you call the next method, it will read the second record. Next time, if you call again one more time, it will retrieve third record. And if there are no more records, then it will return false. Okay, so this next method will either return true or false. If there are records available in the result set object, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So we are retrieving exactly one record because email field is a primary unique field. There will be exactly only one record matching with that email field in the table. So definitely that will be retrieving only one record. So instead of using, if there are multiple records, we have to use while loop to parse through all the records. But if there is only one record, then you can use if statement instead of while loop. Uh, right? So I'm using if statement. In that, I'm calling rs.next method, that is result set object.next method. So this will return true for the first time because there is one record. If I call it one more time after this, then it will return false because there are no more records. Okay, so first time you call it, it will return true. So when it returns true, this if block gets executed, and this if block, what is it doing? It is displaying all the values of the table. So first I am displaying a message your details. Then after that, the first field name is id, right? So I'm displaying id colon concatenated with this method. So this method getInt method is used to retrieve from the record a particular field with its name given as parameter to this method. And depending on the data type of that field in the table, if it is varchar, then you have to use getString method. If it is a boolean value, you have a method called getBoolean. If it is a blob object, then you have to call a method called getBlob. But in our table example, we didn't use all those data types. We used only two data types. One is integer, that is the first field id, and the remaining fields are strings. So to retrieve an integer value from that record, we have a method called getInt method. So you have to call it using the result set object that we created earlier. So rs.getInt, what is the first field name? id. So if you pass this as parameter in double quotes, then this will return the value stored in that record in the under this field. Okay, so what is the value? 11, right? In our database, we have seen for the last record that we inserted under id field, what is the value of this record? Last record 11, right? So that 11 will be returned and that will be displayed here. Then similarly after that, name, I'm giving a description name, and followed by that the value returned by rs dot get string. This time I have to use get string method because second field is a varchar field. F name is a varchar field. Even email is also a varchar field. DEPT is also varchar field. So for all the varchar fields, you have to use get string method. For integer fields, you have to use get int method. So I'm using rs.getString method and passing the field name f name, right? Then this will return the name of the faculty under that field name f name. So what is the name? Vijay Kumar. So that will be returned here and displayed here. Similarly, email, rs.getString of the field name is email. Similarly, department, rs.getString of DEPT, that will be displayed. So this statements will be executed when the next method returns true. If it is returning false, that means there is no record, then this else block will be executed and it will display a message, sorry, no records found with your email ID, right? So if you want, I'll run this program and show you for that. So I'll give some random abc@gmail.com. Okay, so what is the message? Sorry, no records found with your email ID. So because result set will not get any value, no records will be retrieved and stored in this result set rs object. So when you call rs.next method, it will return false. If it returns false, this else block will be executed. This else block, what is it displaying? Sorry, no records found. Okay, so this is how you can retrieve values from the table of a MySQL database using JDBC, right? So, sir,
thank you very much, Targeshwar.
యా సార్, నేను అది రికార్డ్ అయిన వీడియో అప్లోడ్ చేసి మీకు లింక్ పంపిస్తాను.
Okay, students, do you have any doubts?